Hello, I'm your host Fahad Farooqi, and you're watching Coffee Table. Today we'll talk about trolling on social media. Nearly every politician, celebrity, even human rights activist are trolled every day. And sometimes it goes viral on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, so on and so forth. Sometimes trolling gives the voice to the voiceless, but then it has the dark side too. To discuss the both sides of trolling, we have with us Rimmel Mohyudin, who's a human rights activist, and we have Shahbaz Taseer, who, amongst other things, today wants to be introduced as the last legend of Pakistan. Shahbaz, what's going on here? You want to be called the last legend of Pakistan?
Being invited to a show to discuss trolling, I think my mother would be so proud that if it came with this title, The Last Legend Discussing Trolling, I think it'd be perfect, and my mother would be really proud.
But you leave me no chance. I can't be a legend anymore because you're the last legend of Pakistan.
I mean, because, we successfully defeated the Taliban, and so that opportunity is gone.
You have a point there. But Rimmel, is it right that there is a dark side to trolling as well?
I mean, if you ask me, I think I'd be struggling to find the light side of trolling rather than looking for the dark side.
Well, the light side.
Of course, the embodiment right there, but not everybody gets a chance to.
The epitome of the light side.
I think that trolling is something that, of course, has a dark side. Its roots are in the dark side because it's designed to sort of come at your opinions almost like an ambush. And that's kind of where I think the intention sort of becomes a little more clear. And it's also important to know what's springing that sort of ambush. And once that comes through, then you can really figure out if it's dark trolling or light trolling.
But then it begs the question, and I'll ask you, what is trolling then?
Look, I mean, and just to be frank, when someone with a profile picture and a name say something, at least, there's some kind of accountability, right? And so I would consider, like, for myself...
But then most trolls are anonymous.
It's like a little army, right? So, for example, today we have our government and our intelligence agencies and our army saying that there is a new kind of warfare that does exist. So it's modern, right? And what they're actually talking about is this, like, cyber army. It's a narrative pushing... It's like you're pushing a narrative at the touch of a button, right? And that's how convenient, like, it's become for us with smartphones and with social media and things like this. So I have actually never come across, like, anything positive in trolling. I've usually seen it to push a very dark narrative or a narrative that that maybe real people wouldn't agree with. And so, you could get like 50,000 likes on it and almost push it as like something popular. I see a lot of people do it.
But that's sensationalism. This is what I think, and you can all both correct me, that sensationalism sells, so that's what we get to see. But there are some trolls which are just for the heck of it.
No, so just to explain what I was saying. So, for example, I would put up a tweet saying, today is a lovely day. And then she would come on that and say, actually, you're wrong, it's not a lovely day. And then 8,000 people will tell her why she has absolutely no right to say this to me. It'll start with her being a woman, it'll end up with her family, her earnings, everything.
What do you reckon? Is that really true?
I absolutely agree with that. And what's really shocking about the way that this narrative at a touch of a button, which is a very apt way to put it, is that it really doesn't become about your opinion anymore. They will attack literally everything that you could possibly be. They will find a reason for you to not have that opinion and attack you with every fiber of their being. There is a dehumanization that happens in that process. Yeah. And what's really ridiculous is that if you are seen as representative of an opinion or a line of thinking that they don't agree with, there's like an avalanche. Yeah. And that narrative...
But you always have a disagreement out there.
There's a difference between a disagreement and being subjected to trolling, because trolling is rarely about actually listening to the other person. It's not a debate. It's not an argument. It's straight up them not listening to you and degrading everything that you're saying and finding every possible reason, valid or not, to disagree with you.
Have you ever done that?
Have I ever disagreed with someone?
I know you've disagreed with people.
No, you know, the thing is that no two human beings are alike, and it's perfectly normal to disagree. Like there have been, like every day, for example, I work with my mother, I work with my brother, I work, you know, I have lots of people that work with me, and I rarely find myself agreeing on anything, and it's normal to be like that. But if, for example, somebody was disagreeing with me and I activated an army of bots to attack them, now I've never done that, right?
Okay.
So I've never paid for someone to be humiliated, right? And I think that's a line. Like you see that in Pakistan, and we were just discussing this before. There are not a lot of places in the world. I think there's the US, there's literally Israel, and then there's us, where this rampant trolling and it's very derogatory, it's very insulting. I actually find it funny because I can't believe that somebody would pay people to insult me. You know, I've had a tremendous experience with being insulted. But
it's good that you're smiling about it, at least.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. There's this inherent element of shame that they bring to the table, which is something that a debate doesn't necessarily rely on. If it's a debate where both sides are actually listening to the other to learn. But there's that element of humiliating them and bringing them back to their place. This is something that he will be vulnerable to because of what he is and because of where he comes from. I will be vulnerable to it because of the fact that I'm a woman, the fact that I'm an activist, the fact that I represent the leftist agenda. So all of this sort of, you know, every characteristic about you will be used against you.
But you're working for a good cause. He's just having fun for it. I'm sure people know by day, you're an entrepreneur. So you're doing it for the fun, for the heck of it.
No, there are certain things that are very close to my heart. So when I speak about certain things, I speak about them from a sense of perspective. At least I feel like I can. So when I speak about extremism in our society, I feel like if I don't speak about it, it's not that I could not be an entrepreneur, I could be anyone, but experiencing.
Can I ask you, she mentioned a very important point, shame.
Yeah.
Have you ever been shamed for that?
There have been attempts, right? So it ranges from a variety of things. Like I have been attacked at things that, like, just before I got kidnapped, I put up a tweet saying there was a footballer called Rio Ferdinand, who I love, he's a Man United player, and I said he has more followers than Imran Khan, who at the time was literally an irrelevant politician. And so when I came back, obviously the political scenario had changed. Imran Khan had...
Drastically,
yeah. And so a PTI supporter says to me, he's like, go back. So I found it funny. So I just said, I was like, it's not like you can get a train ticket. And then he found that I finding it funny. Maybe, he could relate to me. So a lot of these trolls, like me because of my reply to them, like almost agreeing with what they're saying to me.
So here's the question. There's a choice whether you get shamed or not. So either of you can take it. So is it really that? Because he doesn't get shamed.
No, I'm sorry to say this. I don't get shamed, but some of the things that I speak about, there is a narrative in Pakistan to put those things down.
Have you ever been trolled for your working for your cause?
I in no way want to equate my experiences to what Shahbaz has been through and his family has been through. But of course, I don't particularly like the notion of putting the onus on the people that are being trolled for they have to be shame-proof. They shouldn't let it get to them because we're human at the end of the day. And as much as I would like to de-weaponize them and the way that they troll me and the way that they talk about the way that they try to put me down for the work that I do, but I'm not going to, whether or not I let that get to me is of course my decision, but you're expecting an almost superhuman
thing.
Element, a quality within me, which I suppose does come with time. And perhaps, Shahbaz, what he's been through allows him to have that strength, which you can't just put that onus on other people to be okay with it.
It comes from what you're saying, which is constant abuse.
Yeah.
I didn't get this strength because I was born with it. I was beaten and abused and beaten and abused.
There is no other way
till I
to
became
survive.
resistant to it. It was short of me saying, well, all you have to do is kill me now, right? So is this what you would like human beings to be subjected to become proof, to be troll proof?
To be shame-proof.
Yeah.
So what's the psyche behind trolling? Is it like they're disillusioned?
No, I don't think that a lot of them are real.
But some are real.
Listen.
Some, yeah, like
course
Farhan
they're-
Birk. We should talk about him.
Okay, then you're getting hacked tomorrow.
But yeah, but what's the deal here? Are people trolling others because they have nothing else to do in life? They're hacked?
No, it's
I
a
mean,
very profitable
after-
business, by the way.
Exactly. I mean,
Very profitable. You get
if
paid
you-
a lot of money to do this.
But only when there is somebody who's backing the cause and you're being purchased. But then there are others who are just there,
look,
who are not anonymous, and they're doing
the way
it.
that, okay, this is going to get a little technical, but the way that algorithms are set up for social media organizations, many of the times you're sort of presented the views that you already support. You get a single story. Even if you go onto your Facebook, that's why so many people have been surprised in the supposed post-truth society that we live in, because you're only being sort of shown what you already believe in. And so when you see someone sort of countering that, you get very surprised. And of course, there's that sort of knee-jerk reaction where you just want to sort of attack for what you've been believed, for what you're being countered with. But at the same time, the psyche behind trolling, I wish I could say that there is that much sophistication there, but there isn't. I think that I'm not going to say that they're all bots, but most of them are. And I'm not going to sit there and the psyche that comes it goes well above and beyond the guy sitting at his laptop and saying mean things to people.
Yeah.
It's that you have to go look 5 feet above his head.
Especially if you're saying something that you feel has meaning. You know, like, for example, I've usually seen people, like I've seen her be subjected to abuse, and she's seen me be subjected to abuse on Twitter, and sometimes because we've retweeted each other's things.
I think once in a while in life, we've all seen ourselves and other people being abused on social media.
Yeah, but see, and the thing is that, for example, if she disagreed with me on Twitter and we sort of had a go at each other, that's fine, and that's a disagreement, and maybe she could offend me or I could offend her. But it's really the 10,000 likes that follow, on when, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's almost as if they're trying to show you that look at where we come from. Look at the force behind us.
So it's the likes that end up shaming you?
No, no, go ahead.
I mean, it's not the likes that end up shaming me. It's the fact that there is an avalanche against me for an opinion that I have.
At least that's the feeling you get.
For an opinion that I have. I mean, and the thing is, I'm not in any way going to stand here and say that no one has been abused more or trolled more than me. Like, he probably has it 50,000 times more than I have been. But if you look at, for example, what happened with the Aurat March, I mean, the way
you had to womansplain everything.
I had to womansplain everything in the Dawn article. In fact, I wasn't even here when the Aurat March happened. I don't live in Lahore. And
you weren't even there?
My indication of the response to Aurat March came from the trolls on Twitter, which is why I felt the need to actually womansplain the placards that were there. So there's this level of, just sheer abuse that can be hurled at you for asking for what you are entitled to as a human being. I'm not even going to get into gender right now. The fact that somebody could get so offended by a woman calling for access to menstrual products is ridiculous. The fact that trolls think that they can speak for you or they can silence you by bullying you, that's something that I'm not going to ever be okay with and think.
Hold that thought. We'll take a short break and be back, and we'll pick it up from right here. Welcome back. Rimmel was talking about cyberbullying, that there is an avalanche of people who come at you. Shahbaz, I wanted to ask you, why does that happen?
It's that narrative building, Actually, I have almost 50,000 people that follow me on Twitter.
Okay.
So I get, I'll tell you why it's interesting, because I get messages in my inbox saying, would you like 80,000 more? Would you like 50,000 more followers? Get in touch with this website.
Instagram as well.
Right? So, so I'm not big on Instagram. I only do Twitter, right? So I was like, why would I get a message like that? I'm sorry, because I was a bit naive, right? This is all new for me. So I went and sat down with my IT guy and wanted to understand what is this 80. So he said, you know, when you get 10,000, when you buy 10,000 followers, what happens is you put out a tweet and you've got 10,000 likes on it, right? And then it's mainstream. And I said, what do you mean mainstream? So he's like, it starts trending, your hashtag starts going. So I was really interested. I was like, because hashtags didn't exist before I got kidnapped, right? So I love Imran Khan, hashtag PTI. It's the most liked and retweeted tweet that I've ever put.
You're joking.
It's crazy. So it was just like an exercise that we did, right?
But then there must be people who strongly oppose your point of view or strongly oppose his opinion, whatever you stand for.
That's
how
fine.
do you deal with it?
No, it's fine. I don't mind if somebody doesn't agree. I remember having civilized conversations with the Taliban, you know? And that's why I found this lack of patience that we have as a society for debate. You know, I would talk about really, really sensitive stuff with these guys. They were very open to debate because they were confident about what they're saying.
But you know what concerns me? The younger generation who could be cyberbullied. So when you talk about cyberbullying,
no, they are.
Anybody can be cyberbullied, and it's really not.
Look, when I was a kid, bullying was a real thing. There was none of this TV and all this stuff didn't exist. Like, you know, I was in the early 90s. I was almost done with my middle school. I was in high school. So all of this stuff didn't exist, but playground bullying existed, locker room, you know, talk and jokes and this life. Like this existed in reality. You could see it happening in front of you in school and stuff, right? What I see now is that's translated into a virtual life. Like everybody's got Facebook, everybody's got statuses, Instagram. How many likes do I have? You put up a picture, somebody writes underneath, you're fat and ugly. You know, you're devastated. I've seen it.
How do you deal with it? And that's a question I want to ask both of you. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it? I know I can well imagine that you're going to laugh it away. But how should people deal with it?
You know, I'm really lucky because I had, you know, my father and my mother raised me in a way that they explained to me certain logics in life. One is that if you feel very strongly about something with conviction, you must always believe that you're the only one in the world and no one will back you. And you have to hold your ground and you have to stand. Like when you believe something morally, right? Then you have to hold your ground on it. And you'll probably be alone. Everybody will
for
leave
a cause.
you. Yeah. And that my father used to explain, it was a bit difficult when I was a kid to understand why he had such a, it's an isolated but very strong view. But that's because of the things that he'd been through in his life. But with my mother, she always used to tell me to be patient because while he was suffering through whatever he was, moral stands and whatever, she was always in the background suffering to get him or give him relief, you know?
I want to ask you, you work for causes that requires a lot of conviction. Not everyone can be in your shoes. How do you deal with it?
I think to borrow from what Shahbaz is saying, it's really just your conviction. What the trolls are looking for is a weak spot. They're looking for a place where you can bend. For example, so I worked for years in the death penalty or against the death penalty, and you know, you have to be okay with the fact that you will be alone. And you have to, if you really believe that someone doesn't deserve to be hanged, you will find it in you to, you will find the strength within you to be able to push back. But coming down to, you know, cyberbullying and the kind that some children are subjected to now, because
which
obviously...
is very important.
Yeah, because obviously, like, not everybody is being bullied for a cause, right? Not everybody is being bullied because they have an opinion. People are bullied for who they are. You are being in...
Yeah, you're being bullied for being tall, being short.
Yeah, the cyberspace as it exists today is one that really punishes you for being not something. Yeah. You know, like, you know, as a privileged man in Pakistan, there will still be ways that they'll find to attack you. Women, it's a very well documented phenomena how they get abused online, how a minority will get abused online. Now we are living in a time where you have the Pakistan Electronic Crimes Act. You are looking at a situation where people are being sentenced to death for a Facebook post. So there are a myriad of ways that people can now be, not only is there cyberbullying happening, is there the phenomenon of cyberbullying, but there's also a law in place that enables it. And
Indeed.
That's something that should terrify all of us. And that's why it's really important for people who are in positions of power to speak up. It's really important that people who have huge followings online and people who have that sort of gravitas in that space, they need to speak up.
So let me ask you about this. Is there a positive side to trolling? Can you troll for a cause?
Yeah.
Just to push an agenda?
Of course. If it's Hamza Abbasi, Amir Liaquat, Rana Sanaullah,
Yes,
Abid
yes,
Sher Ali,
yes.
Captain Safdar, go. Do what you like. Have a good time.
You know what? I literally, that's a perfect answer right there. So,
But then really, is there a positive side to trolling? Can you troll?
look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I've said this so many times, I'm not going to be an advocate of trolling in any way, because at the end of the day, I am an empathetic human being. I do believe that everything, you can rationalize human behavior in many ways.
Thanks for leaving me out there.
No.
After agreeing with my list,
I still agree with that list. That list is fair game. That list is fair game because again, the reason why that list is fair game is because those are people from privilege with those megaphones who use it to spread hate. They use it to reinforce the forces that perpetuate cyberbullying, that perpetuate, isolating certain groups from the other. There's hyper nationalism and hyper toxic masculinity that sort of gets spread through that. So for that, yes. But
may I ask you, there is no avalanche. I mean, there must be a moral compass. There will be people who would.
It's not my responsibility to find their moral compass, and it's not anybody else's either.
So there would be people. There would be an avalanche of opposing point of view towards you, dislikes, dissing people, disgracing.
But what is
Can I ask you something? Suppose she was sitting at in a restaurant, and somebody walks up to her and abuses her.
Okay.
What would happen? Suppose there were 3 other normal, logical people sitting there. They would get up and say, "What's wrong?" She would create, "Why are you speaking to me like?" Suppose she doesn't even know the person, right? So if it's in your human interaction so offensive,
so you can do something about it.
No, if you're not supposed to do it, right? So she's sitting in a restaurant. Nobody's going to walk up to her and say, "By the way, you look hideous today," right? You can't do it. So why is it why does she have to deal with it on social media?
So can I ask you
can hide.
Because you hide.
Exactly.
So how is it legit?
Can you get away? So are you saying?
You shouldn't get away with it. Is it I mean, firstly, I don't know how these accounts exist, right? But they do. So I don't know what the solution for trolling is. I don't agree in any way of insulting another person, going for their family, going for their integrity. For example,
that happens a lot. People get very personal.
Yeah.
But listen, even in the list that Shahbaz just listed out, no, I don't think that it would be. I'm not going to go after their families.
People do things on social media because they can get away with it.
No, I really think social media is this unique thing. I have 10 million followers. It kind of gets you lost in your own world, and then I don't know how to bring you back.
Yeah, I mean, it does develop this God complex within you because you're just thinking, oh, I have a thought and I must put it down on paper. I must tweet it. I'm going to share this. I was semi-blackmailed by someone because of an opinion that I had.
Okay.
And basically, they were like, oh, then we'll release pictures of your family.
What does that mean?
If you have this opinion. Right? And my opinion was basically I don't agree with this. And I think it's stupid. Right? And the response to that was that it's justified to release pictures of your family. Can you imagine
this? It's preposterous.
So how do you reason with that?
They justified by saying, oh, you said I'm wrong, so it's okay to release pictures of your family.
So here's my question. Where does that become?
But the person doesn't realize that I'm much calmer. I'm much calmer than I was before I got kidnapped. People in this country have God complexes anyways. When you start going into
blackmail, says the last legend of Pakistan.
No, my brother and I, we keep snapshots of all the trolls who troll us. Take their pictures. We have a big black book.
So I love it. If you tweet this today that I was on Coffee Table and I asked the producers to introduce me as the last legend of Pakistan, what do you expect would happen?
I expect, where are those flowers gone? Where's the flowers that the crew put on me?
But see, but that proves my point. Something as innocuous as that
I'm just
is
having
enough.
fun.
Yeah, I mean,
I am the last living legend.
Fair enough. No one disagrees.
Can I ask you,
yes.
moving forward, where does trolling become bullying? Is there a line?
I don't think there's a line. I think trolling is bullying.
Yeah, I think it's the same. I
It is
don't
the
think
same.
there's a line. I think you can, once
then
you
if
cross
there is
it,
no
you've crossed it, and you can go deep, into how...
Look, I tweeted something about how the rapist and killer of Zainab, the 7-year-old who was found in Kasur, should not be publicly hanged.
Yeah, I remember
Of course.
And I was called a whore. I was called the enabler of murderers. I was told that they should all rape me, and then maybe that's how we should be. Maybe that's how I would learn the lesson about whether or not somebody should be punished like that. And see, if you're calling for basic decency for humanity, that can put you into trouble. If you can say something which is so obviously a joke, that I'm the last living legend of Lahore, or of the world, sorry.
No, only Pakistan.
Oh, come on! The world is open. But the fact that but the fact that might set people off is in itself a statement about where we are.
Yeah.
And that's, people.
I'm just going to touch on something that she's saying.
People don't allow you to joke around, because when there was a picture of Black Hole that came out, there were so many memes, and there were some people who were just offended by those memes, and it was just for a joke.
No, that's what offends you and what doesn't offend you is fine. But I still believe there's basic human decency. I'm just going to come back to something that she's saying, because some of the work that she's done for the death penalty is actually unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So,
hats off.
And I don't think I don't know, I'm sure you do get praised a lot for it, but you should be praised for it, because it's amazing.
I see people there, from what I gather from both the conversation we've had, is that there are people who are really angry, but they're really angry about not about the causes that you stand for or your opinion. They're really angry about minute, minuscule things.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't think they're angry about minuscule things. I think that it's very hard to describe trolling without looking at the machinery behind it, right? That's why I said that for trolling, you need to look a little higher than the guy,
than the person
who's abusing you. There is a strategy at play. It's not just madness. There's a method to it. There is not just. It's not just like, oh, I'm so mad at you, I'm just going to go crazy on my keyboard. That's not at all. That's not what's happening.
Are you telling me that the memes that you see on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, that there is a method behind that as well? That it's not done for the heck of it?
I think that when you're making fun of a black hole, maybe that's someone just having fun. But I think that when you are systematically going after accounts that uphold a view that is not in the mainstream, and you're being abused for it, that's different. That's trolling.
And there's
what do you reckon?
I 100% agree with her. I would say,
Is there an end to it?
Well, I hear that Farhan Virk has had a problem with PTI, so I think the end is near. I don't know. No, but
but it seems to be getting out of proportion.
No, so here's where I think this is where the companies need to be held to account. This is why you need to ask Twitter why, when you report a tweet which calls for your hanging or which calls for you to be raped by 10 different horses, when those tweets are sent to them, why are they not taken down?
Why are they not taken
Why
down?
are they not being muted?
And by
why
the way,
are
I
those accounts
gave up on
suspended?
this in 2011.
Yes, and I have seen accounts that have been and female accounts that have been suspended for far less.
Yeah.
What's happening there?
March account.
Aurat March account was suspended.
And I'm just sorry to
And
cut
people
you.
do this in the name of freedom of speech.
It's not freedom of speech. Aurat March is freedom of speech.
Yes.
If you see, now they've this Child Marriage Act, right?
Yeah.
The federal government has not been clear on whether it's against it or whether it's not against it, because the Senate has passed it, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
What you do have is certain very high-ranking ministers from the federal government saying, we'll resign, this is preposterous, this is against Islam, all kinds of stuff, right? Now you've got, and I'm not saying that it's the federal government or the agencies or anyone, but you have a campaign now targeting this legislation and the people that passed it.
They have a spokesperson. They have a little girl.
This little girl has actually come on. And so you know what I did, right? I just blocked her. Why? Because I never want her to have access to me, and I never want to access her material. So, and I'm just sorry, I'm going to go on this a little bit. I did see what she had to say. And by the way, one of the things that I'm very lucky in is that I spent 4.5 years with the Taliban not understanding why I'm here.
You say is there going to be an end to trolling? It's not going to end unless the systems that enable it. And it's because it's profitable for them. Look at the way the Facebook boosting business model works. You are paying them money to be able to show your content to people who want to follow your content.
Paid ads, right?
And if you look at the analytics
I have to
for
stop
them.
here. We'll be right back after the break, and we'll start from right here. Welcome back. We were talking about trolling, and we've had a wonderful discussion. But on the lighter side of things, have you trolled anyone in your family, cousins, anything? It seems to be elder brother's job description, though.
I troll my younger brother a lot. I troll my mother as well.
How do you do that?
I just randomly, like somebody would put up something or the other, and I'd tag my mother in it. Like it'd be like, bombs dropping in Afghanistan. And I was like, look, Mom, that's me. And she doesn't find any humor in what I say. And then with my brother...
She's become immune to you?
She, like I became immune to abuse,
Yes.
she has become immune to me.
I hope she doesn't take it as
No, but
abuse.
literally, once I said something to her and on Twitter, she was like, I think you need to go back.
Master troller.
I was like, that's not
Where you get it from.
You've been trolled a lot.
Yes.
What's the best reaction to trolling?
Ooh, sometimes you really just have to come
Retweet.
Sometimes you just do the job for them. You just retweet them. You let the world know this is the level of discourse in my life. But
That works?
Sometimes like it's interesting when you publicly shame the shamers.
Yeah.
So that's always been an interesting strategy. But
Aurat March is an interesting example. There were a lot of men who thought that women are trolling men, and women were fighting a
You have
cause.
to be a really
They were,
weak man. Actually, you have to not have your own house in control to find something funny, as an attack on your masculinity.
Shahbaz, we have plenty of them. We've produced plenty of them over the decades.
It's unfortunate.
It's interesting because one thing that I think another placard that got a lot of people really, really annoyed was a woman saying that "Mujhe kya pata tumhara moza kahan hai?" I don't know where your sock is, right? But the point is that, men were just they just did not understand. Why is this a big problem? What do you mean? What about rape? What about women who are being acid burnt? And I'm just like...
No, but I said this to a friend of mine. I said, we have Mukhtara Mai in this country. She lives here. Everybody knows who she is.
Of course.
She's not gotten justice. She was gang raped, right?
And a lot bad happened.
She's one of, then we have Temina Durrani, who, by the way, works with acid attack victims. You should go and see some of the women that are there. And then you've got, you've got the Asma Jhangi cell. God bless her, she's not here. But you should see some of the women that she represents. You should, when I went to a funeral.
Shahbaz, there are men who feel attacked by it.
Because men are fragile. I'm sorry, but masculinity is something that I think needs to be handled with great care, because anything that, if a joke can crack it.
So men need to stick a fragile handle with care.
Of course.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm just joking around with it anyways.
I'm not.
I'll tell you something, and she's right, because I remember my father came from a different time. कहते हैं पुराने ज़माने के लोग जो थे. Old timers. But my father always told me one thing, which is that if the woman in your house is not educated, independent, and has her own opinion, okay, तुम्हारी नस्लें खराब होंगी.
Your generations
right?
Yeah.
So all my sisters are better educated than me. That's obviously because they're smarter. It's very clear.
I can totally relate to that, because I take great pride in the fact that ethics and how to treat and speak and react to women and my disposition towards women was taught by my mother. But then again, she's a very educated woman and very strong.
I always tell my mother this, that we don't know enough, because I know that I'm wrong about so many things. I am easily offended by so many things. I have such certain expectations of my wife, of my sister, of my mother, which are completely unreasonable. And and my mother has always told me that I'm not the best person to pass this, what is a free person, how to treat a free, independent person. I can't tell you that. I've come from a different time. And so what I've realized in the last 3 years is just to take a step back and listen. It's not that offensive.
That's interesting.
You should just listen to your wife, to your sister, to your mother. There's a crazy statistic, to say this.
Yeah.
There's a crazy statistic that 90% of women in the world have experienced harassment. Do you know?
And the other 10% is probably just not reporting it because they're too scared.
And that's, as a father, I hear a lot of men say, but I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a brother. As a father, as a husband and a brother, that just blows my mind and forces me to be a little quiet in these conversations and learn, because obviously I don't have my house in order.
But this is the thing, that you said this just a while back, that people have a space to say something. And obviously, social media is like speaking to a void. And there are so many people, you're not interacting with somebody specific.
No,
you're interacting with everyone. Yeah. So is it like we all feel the need to say something and that's why we say it? So is it in some way it's giving voice to the voiceless?
Of course, the internet democratized opinion. Of course, the internet made it easy. It made you feel like you were being heard. You found your tribe. You found your people. You found everybody. You found someone who agrees with you, and you found someone who disagrees with you. Does that enable trolling in any way? I mean, am I going to say that? Do I want the internet to go away to make the trolling go away? Not at all. I think that
no. Then you'll have what happened before internet, which was real life trolling. And it does.
I mean, I think it still very much exists. Because at least you know who's true.
You can say your X, Y, Z is this.
Yeah.
Here is like X doesn't have a face, Y doesn't exist, and Z is
and you don't even know if they're real.
It's an anonymous handle.
Yeah, it's an anonymous handle. And look, in my experience, I've seen it with a lot of people. It's just constant abuse. It must be really frustrating. I get it, but I block, mute, whatever.
You've done that with your brother and your mother.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, what's the best reaction to it?
To being trolled?
Yeah, what's the best reaction to trolling? Celebrities are being trolled, politicians, sometimes right.
Look, you have your Twitter people who are really good at it, who can just come at it with a really witty retort of their own. Present company included. You have Chrissy Teigen, who's blocked by the president of the United States for it. Of course, there are ways to just make a joke about it. You can lighten the mood, and you can just have that kind of pushback where you're just being funny. But I don't think that's everybody's cup of tea. And I
think some people also try really hard to be sarcastic and funny, and they just are extremely offensive.
Are you saying that people don't have a sense of humor?
No,
they go out trolling?
Look.
That could be it.
People don't have a sense of humor. Having a sense of humor and being able to articulate it in a way that you've actually trolled someone without offending the universe is a gift. That is why the show introduced me.
Life without a sense of humor is not worth living.
No, people can find things funny, but can you articulate something funny without offending someone? It's very difficult. And that's where sometimes people offend, but this is not trolling. Trolling is just offending people in large hordes like these.
But no matter what you say, and hear me out on this, irrespective of what you say, you will offend somebody out there. There has to be one person.
I gave you a list.
No, don't come back to the list. But there will be somebody. There are people who do it whose day job is to offend people. But then there are some people who are doing it, and as I said, it's speaking to a void. There must be somebody, you have 50,000 followers, there must be somebody who would get offended. Give me the dummy's guide to trolling. You've trolled your mom, which is not easy. I've gotten this far. I call my mother with her first name, and she gives me a look.
No,
but she likes it, kind of.
Did she whack you?
Mine. Cute,
once I trolled my mother sitting across her in the office. We were having a meeting. She's the chairman of our group. So I was sitting on maybe as far as that, guys, and she threw a shoe at me.
So no wonder you prefer real life trolling.
She said, that's not funny. So I said, okay, fine, I'm sorry.
So,
picked up her shoe and gave it back to her.
So any dummy's guy, because you do troll a lot of people.
Look, I'll tell you, troll your younger siblings, troll Amir Liaquat, Hamza Abbasi, Adil Sher Ali, Captain Safdar, and Rana Sanaullah. And you're
Why
safe.
do I get a feeling that they'll be trolling you in the next 24 hours?
No, it doesn't work.
But then again, you'd be
They're very
proving
politically
their
correct.
point. You'd be proving their point. if
And
you
he'll
did.
troll them back.
By the way, they're more politically correct than me, if you want to know the truth.
So let me ask you this. Can you push an agenda without trolling?
Absolutely.
So are there people that you
made a
reckon...
career out of it.
So here's the thing. He gave a list of people who troll for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Can you list profiles that push the agenda without trolling?
So many.
Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Justice Project Pakistan, literally every organization that's trying to
No,
make...
but even
But
besides
humans,
organizations.
other than organizations, they have a PR working for them, and they've thought it through. We're talking about humans. He's named humans, so come on.
Gibran Nasir, just
Gibran Nasir.
locally one
But then,
guy.
don't you
Gibran
reckon?
Nasir, Umar Varaich, who's the
Umar
deputy
Varaich.
director at Amnesty International, Benazir Shah, who's an amazing journalist.
fantastic.
She's fantastic.
He was also my class fellow.
Yeah, I think so. Shahbaz Taseer. People are putting their opinions forward, and they're educating people. My job as a campaigner is to educate people about these things, and I can be funny, I can be sarcastic.
By the way,
of course.
Nighat Dad, she's a...
Nighat Dad, of course.
She's
She's a powerhouse.
fantastic. She's, by the way, had a couple of goes at me, but, you know, I don't mind because she's right most of the time.
Because she's
And
not
by the way, I'll tell
trolling
you
you,
something
she's-
else.
Then there are people who'll get offended by the people you've named, and they would say that this is
Rabia
absolutely
Mahmood
wrong.
is also one.
Yeah, but I'll ask the question again. There are people who, if you've named, they also have an opinion. Like the people he has named, they have an opinion, and he opposes it. So it's which side you're on.
No,
The
I'll
people
tell
just
you,
pretty
I
much
don't
take
mind having a
sides.
difference of opinion with anyone. I have a problem with people that promote hate. People that divide human beings along lines of nationality.
In their reckoning, are they promoting hate?
Oh yeah, they very well know what they're doing.
They know exactly what they're doing.
I don't think you go and pray at murderers'
They're pushing forward
graves.
an agenda. The question that you asked me, the list could very well apply here as well, because they're also, to them it's a cause, right? And they're pushing forward their agendas.
So any advice to the trollers?
Stop doing it.
They would say, why? But you're doing the same thing.
Speaking?
I'm not going after them personally. I'm not going after their families. I'm not going after who they are.
So it's
I'm going
only a
after
problem-
what they're saying and what they're propagating. I'm going after the fact that they are using their privilege, or rather their megaphone that they've been handed. I'm telling them to stop using it to really make the world a worse place.
Any advice to the trolls?
Just, you have to have a conscience. That's it. If you don't have one, you don't know the difference between right and wrong. If you can hire an army of bots to abuse people and insult them, then, there's no advice for you, just badly brought up.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
That was one passionate conversation. And the takeaway for me is that once we troll at a personal level, attack the person, it's wrong. And cyberbullying is most certainly wrong. It has left a lot of food for thought for me, and hopefully for you as well. Stay tuned. We'll come back with another show tomorrow.